Welcome to the Stop Money Anxiety Now live podcast, episode number 13. Unlock your millionaire brain. Welcome back to another live broadcast of the Stop Money Anxiety Now podcast. I am your host, Wei Hong from the Six Figure Academy.
And I'm Jessica, also from the Six Figure Academy.
And Jessica is actually remotely logging in today because this is the podcast where it's virtual, where we give you real world tips. And she's probably, I don't know what part of the world you're in, but we'll talk about that in a second. Strategies and interviews with some amazing entrepreneurs like the one we have in our studio today on how to eliminate the destructive money habits and anxiety so that you can create a prosperous and an abundant lifestyle in business free of financial stress and worry. How are you, Jessica? Where are you?
I am in Mexico right now. It's a very
Holy
good
cow,
friend
you're
of
in
mine's
Mexico?
birthday.
It feels like you're next door with our neighbor Mike.
Well, it sounds like you're in my head right now. Gosh,
I'm always in
the
your
quality is amazing.
I'm always in your head. Get that.
Anyways, wait. So
what are you doing in Mexico?
Well, it's my friend's birthday. So it's a good friend of mine. He just turned 25, and so we're just out here celebrating. So it's amazing. The weather is honestly just like Los Angeles.
Really?
Sunny, bright, beautiful. Can't complain.
Right. And is
Wait,
it
so how was
shining in a
weekend?
different language? Is the sun shining in a different language?
Well, I mean, yeah, obviously Spanish, but thankfully
Caliente. So
I get to practice my Spanish here. So I'm
yeah, that's right. You lived in Spain for a little bit, so that's good.
Yeah.
It's good that you get a chance to go back and practice. Are they looking you funny? Like, why do you speak Spanish that way?
Yes, it's so funny. It's like some of them will like take a step back, or their faces will just light up. Like,
they'll contort.
What is this Asian girl doing?
Asian people who speak Spanish, I found in Mexico, they're considered exotic. And I said, come to California. We're not very exotic there. We're kind of all over the place. So, but
so
I know
true.
I kept interrupting you, not wanting to talk about my weekend, right?
Wait, yeah, I want to hear about your weekend. What do you got to hide?
No, my week was good. A lot of things going on. End of the month, right before June, going into the summer and everything. But Memorial weekend was fun because I got a chance to play my first beach volleyball tournament of the season.
Oh, yes.
And
How was that?
It was fun because I played with my partner, and this is the best we've ever done. And I told him ahead of time that I wouldn't be able to play the whole day, and he said, "That's okay. We'll just play the morning, and I'll go to my work event afterwards." And here I did was I went and played, and we actually went to playoffs in first place. And I had to forfeit because I had to leave because I already planned for it.
No
now,
way.
Here's an interesting thing, though. We talked about honoring agreements and making sure that we say, what we agree or commit ourselves to that we follow through with. There was a part of me that really wanted to stay, but that would require me to cancel out my entire day, which, as I sat there and thought about it, I was like, this is not very good for prosperity because what I may be potentially doing is dishonoring some of my agreements. And not too long ago, I got sick and I had to cancel one of my agreements. So one of the follow-ups to make sure I don't interrupt my flow of prosperity was to over-honor my agreements and make sure that I followed through with what I honored, had an agreement with myself. I committed to my process, committed to the people around me. So that was kind of an interesting moment that I had because it was like, we're doing really well. This is the best we've ever played. Holy cow. We could take it all the way. And I had to say no. And it was cool because my partner, he's, Dan, he's actually of the same ilk in terms of honoring prosperity, abundance, and commitment and energy and all that things. So he totally got it. And he says, okay, cool, brother. Thanks. It was good times. And, most of the good plays and fun plays in the beginning anyway, because that's just kind of how it is. But we'll be able to do it again. So that was really
that's
fun.
nice that he wasn't. Yeah, that's really great that he's able to respect not even his own agreements, but be able to respect your own. So.
Right. And that's a big deal. I think that we may be able to touch on this with our guest today too. It's a big deal to when you are on a path. Being a conscious entrepreneur, being an entrepreneur, it's here to make a difference. How important it is that when you make that commitment, that you honor that commitment, not just to yourself, but to those around you who you will impact. Either way, whether or not you honor your agreement, you don't honor your agreement, you will make an impact. The question is, what type of impact do you ultimately want to make? I'm really excited about today because, we get to really play today because we're talking about an area where it is very fluid, very fun, and it's kind of like a great prelude to what's coming up this weekend for all of us. So I want to introduce our guest, unless there's something else that you want to share about Mexico, Jessica.
No, I've been really looking forward to this interview today. Yeah, so
we've been talking about it for a few weeks now. So my good friend Brandi Vale, okay, she's here today, and I first was introduced to her, I would say several years ago now, by a good mutual friend of ours, Dr. Ray Doctor. Such a cool name, Doctor. No, Dr. Ray. And it was such a cool introduction, and for a long time we talked about different things, and there's just this connection, and then years ago, then we came out. But we could talk more about that. But let me give you a little bit about, for those of you who don't know who Brandi Vale is through my profile on Facebook and follow those that I follow, Brandi Vale is a transformational speaker, mindset coach, and founder of the Millionaire Brain Yoga, which event is coming up this weekend. We'll give you more details about that. And what that is, it's focused on healing the poverty brain. I don't know anybody who has that. And helping her clients with focus, balance, and clarity. She has spoken at TEDx. She's a TED speaker, United Nations, and many other influencer platforms on social media or social impact in our world. She is one of the most amazing manifestors I have ever known in my life, and I'm so happy to have her here. And what most people don't know is Brandi is a true visionary with high levels of intuition, helping people and groups achieve their goals. And you are all also in for a treat. Gabby is just on already. So true, awesome. I love it. And for those of you who are just joining us, make sure that you jump in and ask questions and chat. We're on Spreaker.com. Just do a search on your phone app or on the website to join us here for Brandi Vale. Welcome to the show, Brandi.
Thank you for having me. It's
Hi,
been hi, Jessica. It's been long overdue, I would say.
That we get to play this way. Yeah, yes. Right. Although we do bump into each other in random events.
Well, I'll start off with a fun story. So my beloved Keith said, "Hey, do you know this? You know, Wei is doing an event on Six Figure Academy, and I think I want to go and meet with him." And it was right when Jessica reached out to me.
Oh yeah.
Before you reached out to me
about lucidity,
almost
right?
At the same time that Keith mentioned that, and then it happened to be that maybe like a week later that I ran into you. Not even a week, maybe a few days that I ran into Wei at another event. So
that's so funny. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Synchronicity.
I know. I think I remember that very clearly. It was yeah. It was the same day. You talked to Jessica, and then right after that, Keith mentioned that I was going to be at Lucidity. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, wait a minute. So I totally thought, and then he reached out to me. No, this is really what happened. So Jessica talked to you, and then because I thought you two should definitely meet, you guys have have very similar pathways, and then randomly on Facebook that same day, Keith reached out and said, "Hey, blah blah blah," and I talked to him and I told him I was going to be at Lucidity, and he says, "Oh my god," but I thought that you guys had spoken, but you guys hadn't.
No. So this is a good lead into where we're going with the midbrain and all the logic behind what happens and how creation occurs, right? And so this would be, if the listeners really understand this is the process for creation, is that when you're awake or when you're aware, that you can see it unfolding right in front of your face.
Oh, yeah.
Present moment happening.
Yeah.
And so now we might not know the total creation of what it is. I don't know where we're headed with this. I know we're going to be playing this Sunday in Marina Del Rey, and you'll be speaking at Millionaire Brain Yoga. But that is just a stepping stone.
Yeah.
It's just another notch on that totem pole as we start to develop really that abundance lifestyle.
Oh, yeah. And I cannot wait until you get into like the sequences and everything of how that actually, explain why or how that happens. What I'd love to hear, the Stop Money Anxiety now is all about people's money stories, and everybody has one. So I'm really curious, Brandi, and I don't think you've ever shared this with me in detail before. Tell me a little bit about your money story and how basically where you came from when it came to money.
So I'm one of 3 children. I'm the middle child,
Marsha.
But it's true. The middle child pretty much is the rebellious one, right? Because we figure we can take advantage. Mom's not looking.
Right.
Sister might tell on us. Right. I could probably sneak out at the end of the day. I did it all, which set me up to be very independent at an early age. So my mother raised 3 of us pretty much by herself.
Wow.
She had 3 jobs. She was unfortunately not there a whole lot, but she was doing it to make ends meet.
Right.
And so what I learned was her work ethic. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, when I was around 14, 15 years old, a hurricane hit our home in Homestead, Florida.
Oh, wow.
Hurricane Andrew. Yes.
Wow.
And if anybody's familiar with that story, basically no home was standing. I mean, it was very intense. I was going into my senior year and needed to finish school. So we moved to Melbourne, Florida, which was Central Florida.
Okay.
So my mother left the house. My stepdad stayed in the home, rebuilt it, and we were here in Central Florida. That didn't go very well for their relationship. So she decided 6 months after to move back, and I stayed. I didn't want to move back to that story. Right. But I was almost 16. I became an emancipated minor. Oh, so my money story essentially is I had to develop these tools very early on.
Right.
Survival.
Right. Wow.
Wait,
okay.
so you were 16 when you were emancipated, and that was an intentional decision when you're 16, right?
You're right. My mom had to sign off on it, and I got an apartment with a girlfriend. Pretty much started very early on.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. So what was that? How did you feel confident in wanting to take this on and actually deciding to be emancipated?
Oh, if you knew me at the age of 16, I don't know. I have that power to I'm going to handle it. I was taking the bus when I was 12.
Yeah.
Going to the mall on my own, getting in trouble because I was riding my bike by myself too far, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this explains a lot because I've always marveled at how active you were and how capable you were of achieving things and manifesting things, and it's interesting because you sent us, your story just kind of ahead of us so we can get an idea. And there was something that you were taught, like in your money story, that you were taught you had to marry rich in order to be rich. Is that still true? Was that what you grew up with?
Exactly. So, our parents, they want the best for us.
Right.
And their money story is our money story.
Initially, right. Unless we do something about it.
Unless we shift that consciousness. And until my youngest son went through a brain injury and how Millionaire Brain Yoga was formed, I started replaying all of this memory of where is my money story? What is it? And as I was writing in my journals, I went, this was programmed at a very early age. Marry rich, marry rich, marry rich, and you'll be taken care of.
Right.
And from a female's perspective, now as a woman, who has a full family and is an entrepreneur, I look back at that and I go, oh man, how much are we programming the women of today?
Right.
And at what age are we doing that? And has that's kept the woman, I would say, down in a specific kind of way. I wasn't taught go to university. Because we just couldn't afford it.
Right.
And so it was marry rich, and I just happened to have, I'm pretty decent looking, and so this
decent, gorgeous. What are you talking about?
So I led right into being a swimwear model.
Nice.
And then I led into using that attractive appeal to get my way. And so as I worked my way into the real world, it didn't work for me all the time because what happened is that self-esteem of how do I look on the outside to make that my money story until I had my first child. And then after I had my first child, I realized, wait a minute, there's something inside of me that's bigger than I've ever known before. And so
aside from the fact that it's probably something bigger than you've ever had inside you ever.
Well,
literally.
Thanks, Way. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, we
had a big meal, you know.
We want the best, right? We want the best for our children.
Yeah.
We want the best for us. I mean, survival is like running on the hamster cage. It's,
right.
Or running on the hamster wheel. And if we don't see the cycle, we'll go to our grave with that mentality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. And we see it all the time. And we see it in people that we love and care about, and they just don't see another way out, and that's just the life they live.
I can hear all of us taking a deep breath in.
It's like, yeah. We do have a comment actually from Gabby Fisher. She says, I would love to learn how to manifest. I got the dreams and the positive, happy attitude, which I can confirm. Mm-hmm. And I just need the right formula to materialize my dreams and energy.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, that's good, Gabby, because we have steps for you to activate certain portions of the brain that will help you start seeing your reality in another reality, another perception of reality at least, and then physically feel it.
Yeah.
I don't believe a lot of people are training the brain the way that we do, or at least the way that I do.
Right.
You're more tactical and more principle-based and a little more logic. I'm completely not logical.
And that's why it's such a good blend. Because here I am going to translate, how did we logically talk about that? Just, even the title itself today, we were talking about, what does that mean?
You know, so to answer Gabby, or to really feel into where she's at, there are steps.
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty crucial, because that's kind of how society has raised us. You know, if we weren't trained in a linear fashion with academia, then maybe we don't need to show people steps. We can just be and it'll happen, right?
But we are. And so the reality of it is we are trained in academia, and we do have processes, and we have to get up and brush our teeth in the morning, and we have to remember where our car is. We remember we have to eat and provide. But that's why we set aside meditation. That's why we set aside connection with heart.
Right.
And that's when we start to really go inward to go outward.
Right.
And so a lot of what I do is transforming business from the inside out. And it's not business without you. So really, it's transforming you from the inside out.
So let's talk about the brain piece that the Millionaire Brain Yoga is all about you, and it's through a series of life happenstances that really kind of guided you to this direction of really kind of unlocking that part of the brain. I'm really fascinated about your take on all that, because, you know, I'm about language and neurolinguistics and everything, and so it's a blend of a variety. Like you said, it's very tactical, very surgical almost sometimes, but would love to hear about why the brain, you know, why unlocking that piece is that's like the linchpin for you.
Oh my goodness, there's so many avenues. I'm going to try to be as clear as possible, and both Jessica and Wei pull me back if I go too far.
I'll be the anchor today.
You know, I refer to metaphysicians. I'm one of them.
Awesome.
And so there were some things that happened in my life, including my little boy. He's 2 years old, and this past year, we're going on 1 year now. He had a seizure after a vaccine.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And you know, I'm a transformational speaker and a practitioner, and I thought I knew a lot until I saw him in front of me on the floor.
Oh my God.
And you know, placing blame. So whoever's listening, this is the beginning of the formula. First, it's really being present and knowing and seeing what's around you that fits or does not fit. Because we can spend a lot of time running in circles. And so if you're an executive, or you're working in the stock market, or you're a doctor, or somebody who really prides on going, sometimes we have to slow down, get into that meditative
space,
and then pick and choose where the direction is guiding us. And so that's key. That's a key component. And so following that path. And so when my son went into this seizure, I did a lot of other alternative paths of going, well, did I do that? Was it the vaccine? Oh, the government. You know, I did the whole...
Right, I remember that,
And the one opening, the light that shined on me was, this isn't about them. This is about me. And this is about me having forgiveness of all of that in order to catapult to the next level. And so I did.
Yeah.
And then we decided to look at the schedule and take a little bit of break, of course. So this is step 2, spending time with that. When you get into okay, well, now I'm responsible.
Yeah. Taking full responsibility.
So step 1, noticing. Step 2, taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Step 3, having respondability to the responsibility. Okay, so now you're responding to something, and you start making your goals, or you start setting goals. This is the logic portion of the brain. So we write our task list of how we're going to move to Hawaii.
Right.
Yeah. I like this task list.
That's a good task list.
Well, so a part of my story is that I just wanted to get out of where we were because we needed to change it, So I start writing on how we're going to go to Hawaii. And on my ceiling in my home was this, I have affirmations: travel, strategy, goals, world, life, energy, in black and white. I look up to the ceiling, I see the word travel. And travel is like, bzz, bzz, just running. It's
like in your face.
In my face. So I look up and this is step 4, having an emotional reaction. So I look up at the word travel. I get super emotional about it. I don't start trying to figure it out too much.
Right.
Then I go into meditation the following day. This is when I start using these mantras. They're wealth building mantras that come along with Millionaire Brain Yoga. Should I give it out now? I give it out later.
Yeah.
There's a wealth mantra that activates the midbrain, the mid portion of the brain. And that's where the God brain or the millionaire brain, I guess they're kind of the same, right?
Right. God doesn't want you to be broke. That's for sure.
God's a gazillionaire.
I know.
He's a Googleaire.
He's a Googleaire.
So I just went into that place of possibility. Well, can we move to Hawaii? Can we spend days there? And I went into that deep knowing, and then I started using the mantras. And so this step, I think we're on step 5, is to see it, feel it, be it, and then let it go.
Ooh. Jess, I hope you're writing all this down.
I know. I was like, let it go. Okay.
Well, you know what I do have is if they go to millionairebrainyoga.com, right there on the opening page, they can download the steps.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll make sure to put a link on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so the steps are very specific to going through the frontal cortex, which is the front right there in the third eye, right above the brow, walking through the larger portion of the brain, which is the logic brain.
Right.
And then going in and towards the midbrain.
That's what you're looking to access to.
That's right, because the place of possibility is sitting in the void, sitting in the nowhere place. Anything can happen. Yeah. The millionaire, the mansion, the work, anything can happen there.
Right.
The logic portion of the brain, not so much.
Yeah. The logic portion of the brain, I believe, is there to just kind of help back up what has been decided on other parts of the brain. It's kind of help like, how do I exist in this world and be able to be understood on some level somewhere somehow? But if for those of you who are curious about what we're feeling, what I'm feeling here, sitting here as I'm listening to her, if you can just, you could probably feel it through just the energy of what you're hearing through her sound, through her timbre, but just seeing her walking through these steps, I can tell already just how invested and how committed you are to this process, and that you've actually it's not a theory for you. It's actually a full experiential type of process that you yourself have walked through many, many times over. Over the years, I've just seen you manifest, and every time I hear stories about what you've done and where you've gone and just what you've been able to create through, it seems borderline magical, but now I see that this process is part of what you've gone through to create so much amazing things in your life.
As I'm sitting here and you're saying that, my run, the stint that I had after going through all of that practice, right? And so the final practice, if you do download, you can call me up and I can walk you through the steps. I have a process for it, but
cool.
Literally, you have to be careful because the two words in general, care and full, really I mean, I'm like you. I'm an NLP practitioner. So there are terms, which are agreements that solidify value.
Right.
And so with that knowing, we go deeper into consciousness.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening for me is I ended up having 30 days in Maui.
Yeah.
Didn't pay for the house. We were granted it to stay there. So we went there. As soon as we got off the airplane, I was granted 16 days in Egypt. I didn't have the money in my bank account, but the bank account showed that I had the money, which was interesting. I could tell you the story on a whole other.
Interesting.
Then
it's all energy anyway.
So remember, the word was travel.
Right.
So then we came back from 16 days in Egypt. I was asked to go to Tahoe, went to Tahoe. As I'm in Tahoe, I got a phone call to go to Vegas to speak on the stage. Then when I was in Vegas, I literally, within 48 hours, was asked to go to Orlando for another photographer that I had visualized on my midbrain to go do a photo shoot.
Wow.
And as soon as I got home, I went to my mailbox. I won a scratch-off ticket to go to anywhere in the nation.
What?
On another trip, and at the same time I'm scratching off, I have this all on my blog. As soon as I'm scratching off this ticket, I get another phone call to go to Kenya, and I'm thinking, okay,
full.
Well,
just a little.
Well, they say be careful.
Yeah.
Of what you asked for,
right?
Because there was an imbalance occurring because I had really felt into that truth,
right? You've really stepped into it. You tapped into a sequence that absolutely works, and didn't realize how well it was actually working. And now you're just like, whoa. So put off the gas pedal a little bit, right?
You know, this was so powerful the first time that it happened when we were in Maui. So I came back and I started hosting events in the park for my friends and family. I just said, everybody come, you have to know what's going on. Let me show you how the brain functions. And I got really scientific with it. But ultimately, you know, science and we'll just say the formless is they work together. They work hand in hand. My practice has always been sound wave frequencies. Sound wave frequencies is how we attune to each other, what we are saying, how we're being, how we have this tantric emotional body that together we can accomplish anything. Yeah. But I couldn't put it into terms. Yeah. You know, because I work with energy. I can put my hands on a body and immediately know what they've gone through over the last course of their years. And so it was nice to see the sound wave frequencies go down into the brain. So that's what I was taught. This whole process of understanding neurology, understanding blue, infrared, you know, how the neurons marry each other when they're over a certain time, an hour, you know, creating new habits. This neurology is very smart. It's so intelligent that when you send it ancient wisdom like sounds and mantras, or you can just say, you can say yes over and over and over and over, and your body will start to emanate yes. Yeah. You know, it's speaking of smart, I'm sitting probably in front of one of the smartest people on the planet right now, and it's such a dichotomy because we don't see this type of association. Someone who's been a swimsuit model and gone away and still looks, after having 2 kids, is still absolutely gorgeous, and yet being able to speak in such a coherent way to help others, inspire others to be able to create that way. It's such an amazing treat just to sit here and just like watching, like, okay.
Well, no, it sounds like, you know, Brandi, like what you have to deliver, it's bridging that gap, you know, from science and the formless, but also bridging that gap, like between what people have to offer and what they want to attain, what they aspire to accomplish.
Yeah.
You know, one of my friends who had been following me for some time, I'll come to your events, but he really understood it when he came to the park one day, and he goes, Brandi, I see what you're doing. And I think he saw it before I did. And then it was just that spirit of knowing that the poverty brain is so limiting, and it's a disease. Our world is full of disease. And that to me requires a few steps to understanding the human. I like to refer to the human as the color of man, hue, man.
That's cool. Hue, man.
You know, understanding the contextualized version of our physical body.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
Without religion. Still no religion in here. Just
human.
So, it's taken on a life of its own. And I see a lot of other people out there. John Assaraf, Joe Dispenza. I love Joe Dispenza. He went through a similar thing as I did, is having to go through this testimony. All great teachers go through trial.
Some trial of terror.
Yeah. I mean, having no money, no money in the beginning, and just, Airbnb being my home and being pregnant. There's a long field of how I got here. Yeah. But what's real, and watching people materialize a Mercedes after they come to the event. Yeah. Having people find their soulmate. Yeah. Having 5 homes in escrow within 30 days after they've used these mantras. Yeah. It's powerful.
Yeah, and it's not too different than what we talk about here. I mean, just a couple of episodes ago, we talked about these 3 key words that start things off. That I talk about, which is the first step to making change, to creating change in your prosperity and your abundance, is 1, awareness. Having the awareness of what the heck is going on, kind of like what you're talking
Being
about.
Being present, yeah.
Right, and then number 2 is acknowledgement. Now you have to acknowledge the fact that, because this is good or bad, doesn't matter. Taking full responsibility. Acknowledge the fact, because so many people like to do one side. It's like, oh, this is great. No, poo-poo on that. But that's still part of you. Whatever is not empowering you now as a behavior of yours it's still you. And we have to acknowledge that. And number 3 is embrace. Give yourself that hug, give yourself that love, so that you could take that next step, take that action. Only then taking action will actually work. Otherwise, you're just bouncing off of whatever turmoil is handling there until you do those things. So not too far from what you're talking about, and this is probably why I'm speaking at your event.
I think this is amazing. You're absolutely right. And so I said, from responsibility to respond ability. Now
I like that, respondability.
Well, because in the respond, it's like, okay, I notice something, which is the responsibility, response, and then the ability. This is what changes your brain. This is where the neurons start to fire together, and ultimately over 17 days to 30 days, they can wire together, which changes the mind, which is different than the actual brain.
Ooh, let's talk about that. Before we get into that, remember, you can go to Spreaker.com and just search for the show Stop Money Anxiety now if you don't happen to be there right now, so you can interact with Brandi live here. Gabby has another statement here. She goes, true, my inner voice is more of a nagger that makes me worry and think of everything that could go wrong instead of focusing on everything I should be thankful for, so I can walk towards my dreams.
I call those your gossipers in your head. Get rid of them.
Yeah, those inner gremlins, right? It's like, but Jessica, you're so missing out. We're just sitting here.
I know.
There's a whole different conversation going on that's not being spoken to the mic right now. But let's talk about the mind and the brain. Yeah, let's talk about the mind and the brain. That's such a cool thing. I would love for you to expand on that a little bit.
Where shall we begin? Okay, so for I wish we had video, because then I can show you the brain. Okay, but for now,
I'll help describe it. I'll be the word descriptor to describe what you're trying to say. So
the larger portion of the brain, which is the outer cortex, the neocortex, that's new brain. Right. Neo meaning new. And so the neocortex will carry on this neurology that's pretty much firing and wiring together constantly based on memory or Memorex.
Okay.
And so,
like the brand, Memorex.
Pretty much, which was a tape, which is all of that frequencies of information on it. So it's a tape. If you would have, that's a good analogy, is that there's recordings going on.
Got it.
So for Gabby, her recordings are very specific to what she's already experienced over and over and over. And so the second that we change a thought from a thought, we start to rewire, or let's just say re-navigate the neurology to the place you really want to go.
Got it.
And so people will use affirmations, they'll use positive thinking, but that can only happen if your body's not in a state of depression or some chemical imbalance.
I would love for you to expound on that, because I always had this thing about affirmation, but there's only a very unique moment where affirmations actually truly work, which you've been able to kind of identify. And where's that? Like you say, if they're not in a good state, affirmations don't work, right?
Right. Because if we're in a depressive state, we're starting at a certain baseline. What I love about the Heart Math Institute, is that they've put out the studies on the heart. You know, I've been focused on the brain, and then of course Spirit will have me go into the heart. I'm like, of course.
Yeah.
Of course you're having me back in the body. Hello.
That's how we manifest.
That's how we do these.
Yeah.
So the heart has 5,000 times more power on the electromagnetic field. And what us hippies have been calling it, the aura, for some time, is really, in a scientific matter, is measured now. We can do this through technology.
Right.
And what Heart Math Institute has done is they've measured the combination between the heart and the brain. And that electromagnetic field, based on what I'm terming affirmations, if it's not connected to the heart, you're missing something drastically.
So if the frequencies aren't in alignment with the brain and the heart, based on what the studies have shown at the Heart Math Institute, then affirmations, or really any kind of thought process that you want to do to create change, will have a harder time.
Right.
Happen.
You'll keep on spinning your wheels, and you can say, I'm powerful, I'm awesome. And your heart is like, I'm seeking over here, I'm dying over here, I just want to leave this planet. You know,
so earlier you mentioned, if we start from a depressive state or a chemical imbalance, correct? So how do you know if one is is chemically imbalanced? Is it if they're taking over the counter drugs or prescribed medication, or is it more than that?
So there's a lot of information. Actually, you're asking many questions. You're asking many questions. I'll start with the first step is getting silent with yourself. So I can express right now in a brief statement is that whenever we start to feel something different, it's because we started thinking something different. And our endocrine system, based on our thought process, will then start spinning and shooting out these hormones. And the hormones make us feel and have an experience physically. Now, that's just a manipulation or a transmutation of energy. So when you go for a run, what happens? All those hormones start to cycle and detoxify and cleanse and start moving memories around. Sometimes people can get depressed when they first start exercising.
Right.
Because they've stored in their fatty tissues.
All the old memories and the memories,
So there's process to understanding the body. I don't know how deep we want to go into it. Just know this. A thought comes from a thought, can be made manifest in the natural state of manifestation, which is like a baby, an egg and a seed. Creation happens.
Right.
And so in that creation portion, your body will change. Your thoughts will change.
Yeah.
And your reality from the perception of the outside,
right,
which is really happening on the inside.
Right.
So quantum mechanics and string theory and all of these wonderful things that nobody understands unless you're a rocket scientist. Had I have known I'd have this conversation. It's quite fascinating what I've created in my own life, and I'm watching others. You just know it's actually very simple.
Yeah.
I know it's complex, but it's very simple.
Well, I mean, it's because the mind is naturally in a quantum state of being. The linear component of what we're kind of aware of, like 1 + 1 = 2, it's almost like a man-forced kind of like way to make sure that universally people can kind of get each other, Without that, of course, we would have challenges kind of like even communicating. But what I think a lot of what you're saying is that from the brain, from the thought, from the mind, from there, the body then reciprocates what is going on between the heart and the mind. And from there, what happens in your physical world around you, it's like a ripple effect.
That's right.
Right?
So the pituitary is speaking to the pineal gland. The pineal gland is speaking to the endocrine system. And
is that how it's pronounced, pineal?
Pineal.
Oh, I thought it was pineal, and I always like.
Oh well, tomato.
But I'm totally wrong. I never looked up how you actually pronounce it. I just thought it was funny. It's like pineal.
So pineal, I always think about the pine cone. And the actual pineal gland looks like a pine cone.
Right.
And so you look at some of these religious statues in the third eye. It's actually an eye. It looks like an eye. The iris.
Right.
So to kind of put that over on the shelf, and we'll get back to that. Never. Now I'll send you the video later.
Yeah.
There's this active knowing that our hormones create our experiences, and they metabolize our sleep. Our reproduction system. I mean, the way we are in our life. It's all relative to what it is we're consuming and being and moving in.
Wow. Such cool, amazing things. But this is really, I mean, for those of you who are listening, this is really something you want to pay attention to. Even if you don't fully grasp all the concept, this is where true prosperity and abundance comes from, you know. And so, you know, one of the things to kind of nail it all down so that more people can kind of grasp all this goodness that you're sharing, because I get it, and you know, it's just one of those things where if you're in it long enough and you're around it long enough, you know, it becomes a part of your being. What Brandi is sharing here right now are concepts on how to be prosperous, not do prosperity, not to achieve prosperity, but how to seriously and completely be prosperous, be the you that is prosperous, be the you that is abundant. And that's really where it needs to begin.
So I said, pull me back when I went too far. Thank you, Wei. I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, let me just reiterate. When I started receiving all of the travel, I realized I wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
And that means I needed now some financial stability. So I started doing my Shroom Brazies with 50 million on it, and then 50 million opportunity accounts started coming to the table.
Nice.
Very nice, but I wasn't prepared, right, for that. So, you know, our life is a journey.
Yeah.
All of these things that you think that you want, you say prosperity. I tell the people in my classes, fine, you want prosperity, you want abundance, good. You're going to constantly be in this place of not knowing what the hell you need. And I say, you know, let's narrow it down to a very specific thing. You want a house? Great, let's get a house. You want 50 million? Great, let's get 50 million. You know, because if we don't know what we're asking for, neither does the electromagnetic field.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. And that's the importance of being very specific, you know. I mean, if we were to think of prosperity as an entity, as a being that shows up to give you what you want, that's kind of how we talk about prosperity here. It's not like this idea. It's more like this person or this thing, and that you have a relationship with. And every time prosperity shows up at your doorstep, if you don't have a very clear designation or direction of where you want prosperity to go, to be in your life, then prosperity is going to say, you know, peace, I'm out. Right. I don't need to be here. And what you described right there is really interesting, because we see it all the time, which is actually the correct order of creating financial success, which is when you have opportunities that show up that you cannot explain. That is an indicator that your container is expanding. Your pockets are getting larger so that you can receive more. Then, I mean, kind of like how man decided to create irrigation and everything like that. They saw rain, how it came in. They said, well, rain's coming in. Water's coming from somewhere. Hey, what if we built a system around the way water flows so that it consistently flows into our life in a way that we can measure, in a way that we can store, in a way that we can kind of control and use it in the best way possible, versus just, you know, however the stream comes into our village, we'll just take it.
That's right. And what if that designer, that engineer started to have fear, lack, not enoughness, insecurity, and then said, no, I can't do it. I don't know. Because that's what happened to my client, who had 50 million laying on the table within 48 hours after he asked me to do this project with him.
Right.
I said, are you sure? Are you ready? Because I knew what it meant.
Yeah.
It meant you might have to samurai jump your way over to another island in order to get your dreams going.
Right.
He wasn't ready.
Yeah.
and slowly, like one thread at a time.
So the money anxiety just popped up, reared its ugly head, and just like,
what about my family? What about this? What about that? What, you know? Yeah.
And you're so right. I mean, you know, applying these principles, there's a caveat to making sure that you're ready for all this. So would you recommend then, when you're first applying these principles, start small? Start with something like that you can kind of get used to it, you know, kind of get the momentum so that you can not be like going, whoa.
Well, first I would say sign on to my webinars.
Start there. Yeah.
Well, you know, because would I say that, you know, some of the gurus out there will say, stay within your energy field. Mm-hmm. What feels good? Do you want 50 million? No, I think I can do 20 million. No, I could do 10 million. Does that feel right? You know, they say like play around with it.
Right.
I say feel where you feel the most joyful and most excited.
Right.
Because energy and motion is emotion.
Yeah.
And in order for us to really soup up the engine of our endocrine system to feel and have that response, then, you know, play. It's all about play.
You know, that's so interesting that you say that, because just a few days ago, on Friday, I had this task that I really was just kind of putting off and not wanting to get done. So I kept picking up my phone to play my favorite video game on my phone. And I said, you know, I don't seem to have a problem playing games on my phone for however long I wanted to play. And I always have a problem putting it down. How do I take this same thing and apply it to things I need to get done? And what you're talking about here is like, what feels good, what's fun, how do you play, and this is what I thought, how do you gamify the process so that I'm pretty sure, I can only imagine what you went through. You probably had so much fun just going through the process. Not even the end result of it, just going through the process itself.
My Hawaii 30 days in Maui showed up. I was washing my son, looking out at the sunset going down, the pink hues, and I started daydreaming about how it would look if I became the COL of a flower shop. Now, what that means?
What's COL?
That's right. Chief Officer of Love.
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
We need to have one of those.
I
in this
do like
company.
that. I know.
Cool.
How
do I interview someone for COL? Will you be my COL?
COL. Because I had been doing all these things and they just it wasn't working. Nothing was working.
Right.
You know, I was pushing and pushing and pushing. And I met somebody who had a flower shop. It was luxury flower shop. And I was like, maybe I'll just do card readings and I'll write some. My point is that I was willing to give up everything for something different, which shows the neurology a whole new pathway. And we never know at the end of the day what will happen.
Yeah, I love that.
That's that.
The willingness to give up everything for something different that you want anyway.
That feels nice. Feels in alignment. The letting go is so in a part of our steps of Millionaire Brain Yoga is that you have to frame inside the midbrain, put your highest desire on the brain's canvas. So basically in that place of void, just visualize. And then you do your breath work, you do your mantras, you chant, and then you walk it out through your frontal cortex, which is the logic portion of the brain.
Right.
And then it's almost like instantaneous. Boom, let it go. See it particleize into nothing. You know, Plato says everything is math. Everything is out there that's attracted to its likeness. And so when you let it go, you have to kind of have some kind of faith.
Right.
And trust that all is well.
Yeah. You know, and what I love about where you're coming from, Chief of Love, Chief Officer of Love, is the fact that, you know, unlike me, because I'm not married, kid's grown, and I have a dog, you know, and I have my business and my commitment to what I'm doing here for my business. You have a whole entire family. You have Keith. You have the two. Well, one of your boys is grown, but you have the baby, and you have all these things. You have every reason to, you know, have an excuse not to give it all up, not to let it all go. And this is what I love about this story that you have here and this journey, this process, is because, you know, I always tell people all the time is that, you know, when you have to let go, you know, and you're not wanting to let go, one question you ask, well, are you going to die if you let it go? If not, for the opportunity to have something different that you want anyway, and all you have to do is let it all go, That's so yummy. I mean, this is...
If you were to see what it looked like as a cell, and you can see a restriction of energy, you're so tight, everything's like, you see people's face and they're all, they're squinting and it's like fighting it and it's inside.
I know.
And it's like, whoa, just breathe.
Right.
And what we learn from that is called dis-ease.
Yeah.
And so I'll go back to poverty brain is a dis-ease. The body just like clams up. And it's good for some people to stay on the hamster wheel, and they will survive. They will.
But that's the key word right there, survive. Does anybody really just want to survive and that's it? I mean, they might convince themselves that that's all they want. But is man truly designed to truly just survive?
Some people love it. Some people love it. They're addicted to it every single day.
I think they don't love it. They're addicted to it.
They're addicted to it, yeah.
It's an addiction.
It's an emotional response to it. It's like, I feel safety and belonging, but if my job goes away, what will happen?
Then you get to be you, finally.
Yeah. Right? So right. I have
that's interesting because, it's, a lot of people tend to be in this trance, right? So not even just being addicted to the security, but not even realizing that they might be addicted to the security.
Right.
And that's what we call robots. And we're programmable.
Let's get right to it. You're just a robot.
At the end of the day, we are programmable, and that's a whole other show.
Yes.
And I love what Elon Musk is working with right now, and the
former client,
and the neurolace. He's got this whole going so big, like SpaceX and electric cars, and now neurolace. Neurolace is how we can actually train, or we'll call it entrainment with the brain.
Yeah.
And so I use those practical principles to entrain the brain. But he actually is designing something to put into your skin.
Of course he is.
Of course he is. But my point is we are programmable. I watch my son every day. I try to program him with eating good vegetables, Oh, it's good. That's good. Look, he's dancing.
How do we
broccoli dancing. Look at carrots, squirrely here. Make them into spirals. So we are programming our children. We're programming a society. We're programming a culture. A culture essentially dwindled down is the estate of now.
Right. And then if we don't like to use, and for those of you who don't like to use program, then just say story. You have a story for every behavior that you have. And that's basically.
I love controversy.
Right.
I'm writing a book. Oh, let me share this. So my book.
So this is share time. I mean, we're going to spend the rest of the time for you to share. I think people are going to be like, oh my God, what is this Millionaire Brain Yoga thing? Let's talk about your book.
Yes.
And then let's talk about the Millionaire Brain Yoga stuff.
Okay. So I came up with the idea that influencers are influencing. How weird is that?
Huh, imagine that. Why would we call them influencers?
And my background as a former CEO of an event management company, and the reason why I spoke at the United Nations was to lead the audience to a greater purpose, because my heart has always been there.
What? The United Nations needs that?
Yeah. Can you believe it? The application for leading people is much like brain entrainment. We have to train them to consume, and then care, and then support, and then connect to a larger community, right?
Right.
Through the heart, and then speak about it. Right. And then now we can use them as an influencer of our product or service.
Right. And this trainability is what makes human beings so amazing.
It's great. It's great. But it's perfect for a consumer market.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are listening to me, I might seem a little spiritual and then a little bit science and then
this is perfect. It's like the perfect blend. You're like the perfect being.
Let's have a parade.
Just have a parade. For what?
A global parade with bongos. So the reason why I'm sharing this is because I believe we can change the entire world through consumerism.
Ooh, I like that.
Yes.
I like that.
And so by supporting good products and services,
right,
it's going to take a story.
Yeah.
Yep.
Program.
And in order to do that, this has been with me for almost 6 years, understanding what I was going to write. The book is called Algorithms of the Soul. The subtitle is to be announced. I won't share it, but it sounds something like How to Track God, or no, just kidding. But I mean, if we're all little mini gods, how to become God. No, you know, science and technology are working together, but really at the end of the day, it's about you. It's about us. How do we feel, and what are we doing with that feeling, and what are we buying because we feel that way?
Love that, the consumerism thing, because it helps bring together that gap that I've been frustrated with between the woo-woo and then capitalism and, you know, poverty and wealth and bringing that all together. It's like, you know, you have to consume. I was at Lucidity and somebody's like, I don't want to make money. I say, that's fine. But how did you get here? Did you sneak in? It's like,
we need to talk to the managers.
I know. How did you get in here if you don't want to make money?
And that's also a program too.
Yeah.
They have their own relationship with currency.
Yeah.
So if I were in that conversation, I would absolutely share with them that currency is energy, and energy is flow, and flow is love, and love is abundant. Yeah. And so can we talk again?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love, because you came from that community for a while ago. I mean, just being the whole festival community, you know that community intimately. I mean, you still have a lot of deep ties in that community. So it's so cool that you've kind of like expanded and evolved in such an amazing way.
It's a test market. So, and then I also ended up in sharing economy. But law of attraction essentially says that if you're sharing, you're going to keep on sharing.
Right.
It's not going to net you money unless you're Airbnb.
Yeah.
But
I remember that conversation. That was like 4 or 5 years ago we had that.
That's right.
Cool.
So I really want your listeners to just know that, yes, you can change your brain and it can bring prosperity.
Yeah. And Millionaire Brain Yoga is that sequence.
That's the sequence.
So let's talk about the event that I'm going to be at.
Sure. So June 4th, we host a monthly event. We're going to switch from being live event in Marina Del Rey to a global network, which will be online.
Ooh.
That'll be happening. And so if you can't make it this time to Marina Del Rey, we just look forward to that. Sign up. Go to the website, millionairebrainyoga.com. Sign up and get your download, and then I'll have your info to share with you when the webinars are happening and give you lots of free goodies and stuff like that. So June 4th from 11 until 5 p.m. That's why it's called a full day intensive.
Yeah, full day intensive. And I highly recommend, this is probably the last time, one of the last few times she's going to be doing it live. She used to do it all the time, once a month, right?
That's right.
Now it's probably the only one for this year.
Well, I'm getting really busy with other stages. So another place to see me is at the Spirit Summit.
Oh yeah,
coming up on June 17th.
June 17th.
Go to millionairebrainyoga.com and just go through the events. Here's a good one for you listeners. I have a free ticket for you, and it's only if you say, "Wow, Brandi was my VIP host," or I don't know how they word it, but just put my name in there and you'll get your free ticket
for the Spirit Summit.
For the Spirit Summit.
Cool. That's June 17th, nice. A little bit further away, so you guys can plan ahead. But I highly, highly recommend, not because I'm going to be there too on Sunday, but highly recommend sitting in this lovely being's energy to really kind of intensely go through the process that she has walked and proven to work not just for herself, but for countless others, to really unlock that part of your brain that is responsible for bringing you millions of whatever it is that you want.
That's right.
If it's a million widgets, then you'll get a million widgets.
I was like, don't put cats. Do not say cats.
Do not say cats. Don't be that lady.
Well, that's back to your statement is, I want abundance. I'm like, well, do you want 30,000 cats? Do you really want cats?
Yeah, abundance of what, right?
Of what?
So, yeah, I mean, personifying prosperity and abundance and having a conversation with this, what specifically do you want? Otherwise, they're either going to just give you kind of like that evil genie.
So I wanted to add in there what my clients have done with me on their private one-to-one. So I do this online. I can host anyone and put them in a program that it really does accelerate anything inside of you. Right now I have a client. He had a vision. He put his vision into terms, and then we are now going into a global marketplace with a product based on what his passions and desires are inside.
Oh, cool.
So it's like he birthed that,
right? And
it's a dedication of his brother, and there's nice. Legacy here that we can train a society to feel love and safety, belonging, and play.
So how do people reach out and connect you if they want to connect with you on that level? How do they reach out to you?
Sure. So you can visit healingandlifecoaching.com.
Ooh, okay. Make sure we get that, Jess, on there. Healingandlifecoaching.com.
Yeah, lots of free things. There's an ebook on there, Karmic Business.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
cool.
A little test there. Just keep on playing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, very cool. Well, believe it or not, our hour is up. I have to, when I knew I had to keep looking at the clock when I'm sitting here, because otherwise, 3 hours later, we'd still be talking about stuff. But thank you so much, so much, Brandi, for taking the time to come all the way down here, being here live, because that makes a huge difference, playing together on this whole thing. But yeah, definitely. We're going to put all the links on the bottom. Go to millionairebrainyoga.com. Go to healing...
and lifecoaching.com. Oh, I got to give this away because I said I was going to give it away.
Oh, yeah.
So 50% off the ticket for June 4th.
For this Sunday. Yes, 50% off. Wow.
Here you go. The code is M50.
M50. M as in Mary?
M as in Mary, or millionaire.
Yeah, millionaire 50. Not M50 like the gun M50.
Thanks, Wei. So M50, don't hand it out. It's only for the listeners, and we'll make sure we plug it in a little bit, but it's not out there. It's not.
Do we not want to put it on the comments then, just so people who actually listen?
Well, let's see. Ask them. So comment if you really want to receive this later on.
Do you want to receive this? Those of you who are listening or accessing chat.
I know this is a super goodie.
Yeah. Oh, we'll figure it out. Yeah. If there's a comment afterwards, but otherwise, if we'll definitely make it available. We'll watch the comments and everything like that, and if it makes sense, if we get called to put it on,
then it makes dollars.
And it makes dollars. Then it makes
millions.
And Millionaire Brain Yoga.
Thank you so much. What a joy, and thank you, Jessica.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, Brandi.
Enjoying Mexico. When are you back? Are you back in time for next week's show?
Oh yes, of course.
Oh, okay.
If not, I will sit in.
Oh, hey, yeah. I'm going to replace you as a co-host. All right. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brandi. This is awesome. Hopefully, we get to see some of you over at Millionaire Brain Yoga or at the Spirit Summit, which is on June 17th. But other than that, have a phenomenal week. Tap into that midbrain that we learned from this amazing being. So we'll talk soon. Reach out to her. Connect with her. All right. Peace.